I had like one of the worst flus I've had in my life. I have a lot to say this week because I wanted to record this video last week since everything was sort of like fresh, like what I'm about to tell you would happen, but things happened and that didn't work. So Act 1, the girl in the frame. There's this thing about how girls appear in art history, like the image of the girl. It's kind of like, I mean, in general women, but like girls, it's almost like they're always being watched or portrayed or contained. And I feel like there's a version of the girl that everyone agrees on, like she's quiet, she's pretty, she stands still so the painter can finish, she doesn't have opinions about the war, the government, whatever her family chooses to believe. She smiles, she waits, she's polite, she has been in paintings for centuries, and she is so absolutely boring, for me at least. The girl is at the core, is decorative, you know. She is symbolic, she represents innocence and purity, and you know in her lies the future of a dynasty, of a generation, but she's not seen as something else. And most importantly, she doesn't get to speak, which is the point of this video. And I keep thinking about what it means, like growing up being taught that and knowing that, like to absorb it so completely that when you finally have something to say, there's hesitation and you wonder if that is the right moment, you wonder if it's the right words, if you're overreacting, if maybe you should just wait until you're older, until you know more. And I think that hesitation has a name, and it's not shyness, it's not modesty. I think it's censorship, but it's an internalized censorship, and it starts very early. Like, I want to talk about two things today. Number one is a Colombian artist named Debora Arango. She is like a rebellious figure, and I think it started when she was like very young. Because I mean, from what we know in her growing up, like she always wanted to do boys' activities and was kind of like told off because of it. Like, you know, riding horseback or dressing with pants and things like that, you know. We're talking about like early 20th century, so, you know. Anyway, she grows up to be a painter, and she had a master called Pedro Nel Gomez, and when she starts painting, she paints things that Colombia doesn't want to see. Like, she's the first female artist in Colombia that paints female nudes and exhibits them, and she uses a style of painting that we call expressionist, but it was such the scandal that the church at the time, the press, and the politicians that were in power at the time, they could not process that she was kind of, you know, canceled around not only elites, but like academics, and everyone basically just like said she was abhorrent because she was, you know, immoral and imprudent. They call it shameless and pornographic. And there was this thing called La Liga de la Decencia in Medellin, and they threatened her with and they threatened her because, you know, Colombia historically, technically not now, but historically it's a very Catholic country. So being threatened with, you know, we're gonna take you out of the church that was like a huge deal. And then there was one exhibition at a very famous theater here in Bogota that is called Teatro Colón. When she exhibited the painting, it was taken down the day after it opened, and it wasn't because there was no female nudes, like they were female nudes painted by men, but because a woman was painting it, it was outrageous, like it was crazy. And I think what I find most fascinating about her story is that after decades of censorship, she locked herself in her house and just kept painting. Like, she didn't stop painting nudes. And for over 40 years, she created more than 400 paintings that probably not that many people saw. Or I feel like it's been just a few years since people started like seriously studying her work. But she didn't stop making art. She just stopped letting other people destroy it. And I think that's so powerful. Like, I don't know. There's a paper that I wrote a couple of months ago, and there's this philosopher called Rosi Braidotti, and she calls that, she talks about an idea that, I'm gonna read it, but it says, the idea that calling a woman's work monstrous doesn't erase the work, it actually does the opposite. You know, it acknowledges that the work has a capacity of disruption and that the system doesn't know how to neutralize it. So that's why it's so powerful. And the reason why I say that, it's, you know, the censorship was the proof that that was working, that her work made people feel so much that it was just, you know, so hard to process. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because there was an election, a presidential election, a couple of weeks back, and I just felt like I wanted to post something on social media. I'm not like a hugely regarded, you know, everybody reads me. I write in the New York Times. No, not at all. But I just felt like I wanted to post something. It was political, it was honest, it was very personal. And what I didn't know at the time is that it was gonna cost me something like real, like tangible in my life. Because a lot of members of my family went quiet after reading it. And I've kind of been sitting with that, you know, and turning it over and thinking about it and wondering if I should have stayed quiet, you know, if I like would have made my life easier if I hadn't said anything. But at the same time, it would made it harder for me, like internally. And then I think the thing that I kept wondering was, if the girl in the room, the one that was always told that she was too much, too political, too sensitive, too emotional, like wondering if she had the right to speak at all. You know what I mean? And then I think about painters like Debora Arango, and I think about her painting alone in her house for 40 years. And it was like she had the right, and I have the right to speak and to write. And you have the right if you're watching this and you feel like that. And I feel like I thought about this way of showing my tapestries and showing the work that I've been doing, because for me it's really important to document my process. And one of the things that I realized when I was making the tapestry was this image of a girl facing a giant thing. And, you know, it's still like a work in progress. It hasn't been finished. There's a lot of things that I have to finish, but kind of like that image of the girl standing alone. You know, very well dressed, very well put together. And I think there's a lot of things that I still want to do to that tapestry. Crazy, because the way that I portrayed her in the tapestry is like, she is waiting and she is standing still, but I don't think she is like a passive or a decorative way, a decorative motif in my work. I think she's like center stage. And I don't know, I've had this thing of like thinking about the image of the good girl, and the good girl that should stay in the places that she's supposed to be and shouldn't face the things that, you know, or the challenges that seem too harsh or too big for her. And I kind of wanted to show you a little bit what she looks like. I've been stitching her for a couple of months now. I haven't touched that tapestry in a while because finishing that for, you know, to show to my professors was a fucking marathon, and I just didn't want to touch it. And then I got sick, and like now next week I'm like going back to it. But what I do want to say is like, what is the art that good girls do, and what happens when good girls don't want to be obedient? You know, like what happens when good girls also have things to say, and it kind of defies the status quo of the things that they've been taught. And then after posting, and after a lot of reflection, and after going back to, you know, Debora Arango's life, I think I just want to stop being a good girl, and I just want to make art. And I don't want to think about the kind of art good girls make. I just want to make things that I want to say.